Wife and I divorcing, she wants half the house but I own it. NY here. My wife and I are divorcing, and we don't know how to handle any of this. We have 3 kids, 2 vehicles, and a house. We married only just in 2021. I bought the house in 2019 fully. No mortgage, just my name on the house. I went to a lawyer already and they said the house would fully be mine if it's sold. She has already moved out. Well, the house sold, and I need to buy a new one. It's very stressful. She wants half the money from the house sale but I told her no. I told her I would give her a good amount and one of the vehicles and she yelled at me. She said she wanted a lawyer and I said you may not like that. We don't want to go to court and all the legal stuff involved but I'm scared she could go after a new house I buy, or the money from the sale of the house. We both don't make that much money, like just above minimum wage, and don't tend to have a lot of savings. I'll try to answer as many questions. I'm not that great at writing or getting my thoughts together, thank you. Please get legal representation involved. This is now beyond your or her scope. She can yell all she wants but you don't have to take it. Remove the emotions from this equation and go through proper channels. We don't want to go to court and all the legal stuff involved. At a minimum you're going to have to interact with the court to get a divorce. You are risking thousands of dollars not having a lawyer and selling a major asset during your marriage. Why not spend a little bit to ensure you aren't having to pay a lot in the end? Not a lawyer. Seek legal counsel. Generally speaking, the asset brought into the marriage would be yours. However, if there was any appreciation of the asset during marriage, that may be considered in the division. If you guys are short on cash, lawyering up and fighting will take its toll. Look for a mediator or collaborative firm can limit the cost. You desperately need a lawyer. You have already made a mess of things and are potentially about to make things worse. If you owned the house and sold it after you got divorced, it would be 100 yours. Selling it during the marriage makes things very messy. If you aren't very careful with what you do with that money, it will become half hers. And if you buy a new house right now, it will almost certainly become half hers. None of this makes sense. Married in 2021, but 3 kids in 2 years. Bought a house in 2019 outright, no mortgage, and added 2 cars in the 2 years of marriage. But you and your wife don't make much above minimum wage and don't have much savings. You have 3 kids, so you have been together for many years but just married for 2? Were you living together when you bought the house? She should get a lawyer, but I'm afraid you may not like that. Talk to your lawyer. She probably isn't entitled to half, and she probably is entitled to something at minimum, half of the appreciation in the house's value since the marriage. But a judge can be unpredictable if you go that far. It's much better to strike an agreement between you two. I think lawyers should be involved. How did you pay for this house fully in 2019? How long were you together? Did she support you while you saved money from your job to buy the first house? I really think it may be you who might not like her getting a lawyer, not here. You really shouldn't have sold it before talking to a lawyer. Don't make a mistake by delaying further. All the legal stuff is what happens when you legally get married and then need a divorce. I can't imagine a grown adult not realizing you need a lawyer for issues with divorcing and property. If your wife was posting her husband told her she might not like getting a lawyer, we tell she has to get a lawyer. You can't buy another house before you divorce, considering this is no longer an amicable split. Either everyone is on the same page for assets, custody, etc., or everyone gets a lawyer. Y'all are at lawyer territory. Both of you need lawyers. For the love of God and all that is good and holy, close this app and just talk to your attorney. Now. You're not helping yourself, you're not helping your kids. You're arguably not even helping her in the long run. You're just making a big pot of horse shit chili. And absolutely do not buy another home or anything of significance until you're legally divorced. Married in 2021, W3 kids. You need a lawyer. Yalbnile. Please seek legal counsel. Understand your options. Don't take hasty decisions. It is likely your wife may not be entitled to half of the sale amount. It's stressful, but do what is best to secure your and your children's futures, especially considering the house was bought and the mortgage paid off by you. A few questions. How long were you two together before you got married? Are all 3 children you're together? If you're making minimum wage in NY, how were you able to afford the house by yourself? Were you two living together and you were saving while she was paying bills to buy a family home? At most, your wife may be entitled to half of the appreciation in your house's value that occurred during the course of your 2-year marriage. If you make barely more than minimum wage, how did you buy a house outright? And have 2 cars? Get a lawyer. If you don't, you will be screwed. Lawyers are around for a reason. Go back and reread the part where you wrote we don't on sick know how to handle any of this. Lawyers do, that is what they are for. Get yourself one. Your wife needs to get her own, but that is on her. You are now opponents and you need an advocate for your side and your kids. I can honestly see why you're getting divorced. This whole situation seems very poorly planned. This is not a logical way to handle a split whatsoever. You need proper representation, and until you get a lawyer, expect further chaos. You should not buy a new house till after the divorce. You should not have sold your existing house. We don't want to go to court and all the legal stuff involved. Guess what? Above Reddit's pay grade. You need an attorney pronto. He should have waited to sell the house. We're trying to get a divorce with 3 kids, 2 cars, 1 house under only my name which I sold while still married, but we don't want to get lawyers or do the legal stuff. Everything in that statement sounds ridiculous. Just get an attorney already, both of you need one, and get this done through the courts the way it's supposed to. Now but if you sold a house, in NY, while still married, then you may likely owe her half. The house put before marriage was safe. At most she could claim half of any equity growth during marriage. Once you sell the asset though, that becomes marital money, usually. Get a mediator to divide the assets and hammer out a custody agreement that you can present to the court. So much of this depends on the state laws, which is why both of you will need a lawyer and a more expensive divorce. Previous owned property or stocks etc. before marriage stays with the owner party, but that depends on the law in your state. Seek legal advice, and not all lawyers are the same. I would not have sold it. It might become marital funds now. Then she gets 50-50. If you file before the sale, that's better. Get a lawyer. Get a lawyer before you mess up things even more. You clearly lack good judgment. You shouldn't have sold the house till after the divorce. Unless you have a prenup, she is entitled to half of the capital gain from the date of marriage. If it was worth $500K when you got married and you sold it for $600K, she is entitled to $50K because that is community property. Every state is different, so consulting an attorney in your municipality is key. What money did you use to buy the house? Did she make any payments or use her income for property taxes, upkeep or repairs? Did you use any money from a shared bank account? You bought for $200,000, how much did you sell for? A good matrimonial attorney can absolutely help you here. If you're both reasonable, you can reach a settlement without going to court. You may want to think about giving her some money, $10, $50,000, to make this go away, because attorneys could cost you as much. Never buy a house while you are still married to someone you're planning on divorcing. As for the rest, retain a good lawyer. Do not buy anything, especially another house, until you are legally divorced. Please don't make it worse. You need professional legal representation to handle your divorce so the divided assets are handled correctly. Get an attorney yesterday. That is really all the advice you need.